What is wholesaling? Wholesaling real estate is selling contracts. You're not actually selling the property. A typical wholesale deal will be you getting a property under contract on a sheet of paper. You sign a sheet of paper with a seller saying that you will buy their contract, and usually before closing, you end up selling this contract for a fee to somebody else that is going to close on it.
I wasn't always loaded, I had to stay down when they got what I wanted. Now when they see me, them bitches be on me. Now when I pull up, them niggas hate on me. I got more money than niggas be on me. Had the ground for the shit, did it all by my loan.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another video of Living Wealthy Investment. For today's video, we're going to continue with our real estate playlist. Today, we're going to be talking about wholesale real estate. Alright, so if you've ever been interested in getting into real estate with little to no money down, then wholesaling would probably be the perfect way for you to get started into it. Today's video, we're going to give you everything that you need within wholesaling, which is what is wholesaling and how does it work, how to find motivated buyers and sellers, what are key terms and clauses that you need inside of your contracts, and how to qualify your buyer. Okay, so that means how to actually see if that buyer is right for a wholesaling contract. Alright, so I've gathered key insights from different industry leaders like Alex Martinez and Maxwell. All of these people are just going to be giving you all the tools that you need to succeed in wholesaling real estate. By the end of the video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to lock in your first deal and actually get started making money with wholesaling real estate. Alright, let's not waste no more time. Let's get into it.
Wholesaling real estate is great for people that want to get into real estate investing but don't have a ton of experience or a ton of money, because again, you don't have to close on the property. You're getting a property under contract to purchase. You can close on it if you want and then sell it, or you can close on it before you sell it. The big thing is you don't do any work to the property. There is no rehab done at all. You are simply taking a property and selling it exactly how it is to somebody else to fix it. All right, that was a very simple version of what wholesaling is. Now let's talk about a simple step-by-step process. Step number one is finding the deal. You have to uncover a distressed property to make a wholesale actually make sense and make a wholesale actually work. You're not going to be able to find your neighbor's house on Zillow and wholesale that unless it's a distressed property. Now the retail market is oversaturated right now because there are not enough retail rent-ready or move-in-ready houses available. However, there are always baked-in fixer-uppers, handyman specials, and houses that need a lot of work that don't sell on the public markets, and that's where wholesalers focus their time, and that's where you find the deals. If you don't have a deal, you don't have anything, so exhaust a ton of different resources. Do your best to find these distressed properties. Again, step two is signing the contract. You have to get the property under contract so you have assignable or sellable rights to that property. Now, all states are a little bit different. Some states are a little bit more lenient with wholesaling, some aren't as much. Not going to go into that right now, but get the property under contract to sell. A couple tips here would be make sure you have a transparent contingency in the contract. You want to be able to back out the contract if you don't have the money to actually close on it. Now, there's nothing wrong or taboo with having a transparent contingency. Just make sure the seller knows about it. Contingencies are very normal when it comes to real estate deals, when you're talking about a residential property, like when you bought your house, if you have one, there was contingencies in the contract. There was a financial contingency, the bank had to underwrite it, there was an inspection contingency, you had to climb on the roof, climb on the crawl space, get to the attic, and make sure everything was in good enough condition to make it lendable. So contingencies are normal. What you don't want to do is you don't want to sign a contract with a seller, not tell them about your contingency, and then back out of the contract. More on this in the diagram at the end, but just make sure to have a transparent, which means the seller knows about it, they know the dates, they know the timing, everything, contingency in the contract. That allows you to be able to morally and legally and ethically back out of the contract if you don't sell it. Step three is to sell the contract. Now, of course, you have to sell it to somebody that has money if you don't, so it's always a good idea to build a buyer's list and network and connect with real estate investors in your area that you know have the cash and the ability to actually flow. You can probably just post the deal on your local real estate investing Facebook group. Don't give away too many details so somebody doesn't try to go around you. However, just posting the simple details of the deal will involve in a bunch of buyers, especially if you bought it at a good deal. There's a meat on the bone for you to make money and the person you sell it to. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, you can close on the property and then sell it, but most wholesalers sell it before closing because they don't have to actually Step 4, final step, is you collect your wholesale fee when the property closes. It will close at a title company. Now, a real estate agent may or may not probably be also involved in this deal. So it's going to go to a title company. It's going to close. The seller's going to get paid. You said they get paid on the contract. And anything above that, however much that is, you get to collect the difference. You of course know this because you wrote the contract originally and sold it. The average wholesale fee around the country is around $20,000. So it is a pretty good amount of money to make. However, it's a lot of work to go through this process, especially finding the deal. There's not a ton of them out there. If you know you're working next week or easier, I'll tell you that in a minute. Find the deal is tough. And actually negotiating it with the seller is tough. So a lot of this is a lot of hard work. You're not going to look at two properties and make fun great. You have to look at a lot of different properties. It's a numbers game. So that 20 grand fee is similar. Just think about it as a real estate agent that connects somebody that buys and sells a house. They get paid a decent chunk of money to do that. That's what's going on here. There's just no agent involved. It's kind of like
Now, what we need to do to be successful wholesaling real estate first, and this isn't a thing you need to do every day. This is just the first thing that we want to do. They can do maybe the first few days, first week that you want to get started wholesaling real estate. We need to find cash buyers, okay? Because everyone's going to ask, how do I know what's a good deal or bad deal when it comes to wholesaling real estate? Well, the people that are going to buy your deals are the cash buyers, the fix and flippers. So to understand what's a good deal or bad deal, you ask them what's a good deal or bad deal for them, and then you find exactly what they want. So we need to actually reach out to them. And a really simple way to find cash buyers that, we've coined the Google Ninja trick is, if I'm looking for properties in Austin, Texas, or if I'm looking for cash buyers in Austin, Texas, I want to sell houses to, I'm going to go to Google, I'm going to type in sell my house fast, Austin, Texas. These companies are going to be ranking for these particular keywords because they invest into marketing. They invest in these websites. They want to find motivated sellers. They want motivated sellers to go to their website. So I'm pretending to be a motivated seller. And I'm going to where they're at. And I'm going to now find their phone number, find their email, and contact them. It's on their website. They want to be contacted, okay? And I'm going to reach out to them. And I'm going to let them know I'm a wholesaler and real estate investor. And I'm wondering what types of properties they like to buy. And I'm wondering what zip codes they like to buy. How many properties are they doing every single month, right? I'm understanding them and their profile, what they like to buy. Do you use any rules of thumbs to buy these properties? Do you have a deal calculator that you use to buy these properties? How do you analyze these properties? I'm asking them. I'm doing a service to them by finding out exactly what they want, exactly how they analyze these deals, so I can bring the exact deals they want to them. Okay, so we establish those relationships with cash buyers. We need to understand that these cash buyers want wholesale deals. It's how they make a profit in their business. They fix and flip houses, and wholesalers bring them houses. It's one of their avenues. So you can do that. I just recommend finding 3 to 5 quality local cash buyers. We don't want to find a cash buyer for in Austin, Texas. We don't want to find them in Maine, right? They're not local experts. We want to find them in Austin, Texas. They're actually flipping houses every single week, every single month here. So we find them, we talk to them, figure out what they want, all right? So once we've done that, that's an important thing to do and to talk about. A lot of people aren't going to tell you to find these cash buyers first, but I like setting people up for success. I like working smarter, not harder. I like beginning with the end in mind. The end is the cash buyer and what they want. That's how we're going to determine what's a great deal. Because a cash buyer can tell you, like we see it all the time, right? I buy at 85% of the ARV minus repairs. And what that is, it's a rule of thumb formula that you now got from them, and you can use that to analyze every single property and understand where you need to offer at to make it a good deal for them and for you to make a $10,000 wholesale fee. So that knowledge doesn't come just from watching a YouTube video. Right. That knowledge comes from talking to the cash buyer and asking what they want. Because if you only talk to one cash buyer, they tell you 70% of the ARV, and then you talk to another cash buyer, say 85% of the ARV, that's a 15% difference in how much you can offer on a property. That is very significant. So if you're using rules of thumb because you watched a YouTube video and you're afraid to talk to cash buyers, you're severely hurting yourself into what's actually possible. Because you're not just taking this first little step, all right?
Market like Phoenix, Arizona, or a market like, Riverside, California, or, anywhere that's hot, to Dallas, Texas, you're going to be typically at about 75%, 72 to 75% of ARV. And you can absolutely still make $10,000 on top of that. And that will actually work. That number will work. You're very likely to be able to sell that deal. And that's based on a cosmetic remodel. Now, if you have a full gut remodel or there's something chocolatey in the house, then I'd reduce that 20% to 50% of ARV. So just like you were at there as well. If you're in a low demand, low appreciation market, like somewhere in Indiana, say, Indianapolis, Indiana, for a cosmetic remodel, I go in at 50% of ARV. And if it's a full gut remodel, I go in at 30% of ARV. So the numbers, guys, they work out very similar to each other. And what I don't want to have you all do is get so caught up on that wholesale fee variable, because, guys, the majority of your deals aren't going to be 50, 60 cents. Chocolatey means it's got some poo-poo in it. You know what I mean? It's got like a foundation crack, or you might have a little bit of fire damage, or all of the houses that we renovated on our show, they all had a little bit of chocolate. So guys, I want you to be very, very, very clear in your understanding here. Brent and I don't actually diverge from each other at all on our valuation here. In fact, we're very much in line. The key is be realistic on what that wholesale fee is so that you get more offers accepted. I can't tell you how many folks are having conversations with people out there plugging in a $50,000 assignment fee and just, completely ruining a conversation with a seller because they're not coming in with a number that's on this planet. So guys, just keep that stuff in mind.
Step one is to find a good deal. At any given time, there are property owners who are in distress that need to sell their unwanted properties and are willing to sell them at a steep discount in exchange for an as-is, fast, convenient cash closing. Now, this could be pre-foreclosure, probate, or an inherited property, a tired landlord, and so on. So where do you find these distressed sellers? The best place is using a property data software called PropWire. Now, PropWire has over 157 million distressed seller leads nationwide. You simply choose your market, choose the type of seller lead you want to target, and then download the list. You can even use PropWire to skip trace the list to get the seller's phone numbers so you can call or text them. Now, PropWire has off-market and on-market leads, and it is fast and super easy to use. But best of all, unlike other data providers that charge for leads, PropWire is absolutely free to search and download an unlimited amount of leads. The only thing better than free is, well, nothing is better than free. Step two to wholesale your first or next house in as little as 30 days is to analyze the deal to determine your maximum allowable offer, or MAO. This is the price you need to get the deal for that will give you enough room to assign it to a cash buyer for a profit, in this case, $10,000. In order to figure out the MAO, you have to know how to crunch the numbers. Getting this wrong is a common mistake for new wholesalers who lack experience. So to make this step brain dead easy, I developed an offer calculator tool where it figures out the MAO for you in minutes without comping properties or estimating repairs. And I'll give it to you for free. I'll put the download link in the description below, as well as a tutorial video for how to use it.
Once we start marketing, start getting leads, we actually really need to kind of take a step back here and track our numbers, our KPIs, right? KPIs actually stand for key performance indicators, and really what I kind of call keep pushing, or the hardest part of wholesaling, I would say, for a lot of people. That's right, just keep pushing. Like Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. That's it. You just want to track your numbers. Be like, okay, how much am I cold calling? How much am I talking to sellers? How many calls am I making? Am I on the right track? It's really just important to know, like, how many calls am I doing? How many lists have I pulled? How many sticky notes did I put out? Just track your numbers so you know exactly how much you're doing, if you're slacking or not, and just keeping yourself accountable. Now, roughly, if I had to give anybody some accountability of how much you should be pushing, I would say a really good schedule, and I know like this is kind of all over the board, but like a good schedule for wholesaling, I'd probably say around 10 to 15 hours a week. If you really had to put me in a bind and say, Zach, how many hours should I be calling, texting, whatever, I'd say 10 to 15 hours a week at minimum of what I call income producing activities. So ask yourself, is this gonna produce me a wholesaling deal and actually make me income or not? Finding buyers, Yes, it does. Making a logo for my company? No. Am I calling sellers? Is that income producing? Yes, it is. Is me posting digital bandit signs income producing? Of course they are. You know, those reverse Facebook ad hacks. Just figure out, hey, is this gonna produce me income or not? I would say track at least 10 to 15 hours a week of that and you're gonna be golden. Then from there, we're actually gonna start getting wholesaling deals. This is exciting. We're gonna have sellers like, hey, I actually do wanna sell my property for cash. Next, what we're gonna do here is what I call qualifying the seller. So we're gonna qualify the seller. And what I mean by that is every Joe Schmo that says they wanna sell their house for cash, they are not all a wholesaling deal. You might get excited starting out like, oh my gosh, yes, they're looking to sell their property, yes! Not every single person that wants to sell is gonna be a wholesaling deal. So what we wanna do is just kind of get a little script here. And I'm gonna write a little script. Let's kind of make it in red so it's a little easier to understand. This is kind of my script for talking to a seller, or what I call qualifying, right? Let's make it a little big here, right? Someone says, hey, I'm looking to sell my property. We need to qualify and just make sure they're qualified for a cash offer. Number one, I think of the acronym MCTP. That is right. If you're looking to start talking to sellers, you don't know what to say, think of the acronym MCTP. MCTP stands for motivation, condition, time frame, and price. That is it. Let's kind of highlight this. MCTP. So when somebody says they were looking to sell their property, say number one, motivation. Hey, Mr. Seller, why are you looking to sell the property? Make sure they actually have a legit reason. Oh, I don't know, I'm just looking to sell it. Well, do you have a reason you're looking to sell it? Job loss, looking to move out of the city, you're looking to downsize, get a bigger house, maybe you're not paying your taxes. If you don't get a good reason why somebody wants to sell the property, it's probably not a good wholesaling deal. Number two, condition. Tell me a little bit more about the property, Mr. Seller. Does it need repairs? How's the roof, AC? Now, also by asking questions, you're actually getting to know the seller a little more. You're actually instantly building rapport, because one of the biggest ways to build rapport with a seller is by actually actively listening. Three here, so T is time frame. Hey, Mr. Seller, when ideally are you looking to sell the property? If someone's looking to sell in 7, 8, 9, 10 months, probably not a super motivated wholesaling deal. And last is price. Hey, Mr. Seller, do you have a rough ballpark you're looking to sell the property for? Or what price are you looking to sell the house for? If you ask these questions, you can get a pretty rough figure if it's going to be a good wholesaling deal or not. The good part is you might be a little nervous when you talk to your first seller. That is completely okay and totally normal. But hopefully if you're nervous, you kind of have this written down so you know what to tell them so you don't forget it.
Skip tracing these properties. So there's two ways to do this, guys. You can do this either on truepeoplesearch.com, True People Search. And what this is gonna do is let you search somebody's phone number for free. So for example, we'll click this one on PropStream and we'll say, okay, well that's an LLC, we'll switch that up. Thomas Hunt, okay? If I wanna find Thomas Hunt in Texas, I can search his name right here and get his phone number. Okay, that's gonna take roughly 2 minutes per lead. So you could do that for all 800 of these if you guys don't wanna spend any money. Now the other option is you click this, you add to list, you click create new, Houston, you name it. I'm gonna call this one Houston pre-foreclosures. We have 800 pre-foreclosures that we can now skip trace on PropStream. Do that right here, skip tracing, select contacts, select group, and we're gonna do Houston pre-foreclosures right there, okay? That is how you're gonna get their phone number. Call these people, okay?
Company, that title company is going to look out for their client's interest and not so much yours. I've seen it happen over and over. Always make sure you choose the title company when it comes to wholesaling. This is non-negotiable. So let's talk about the steps. So say you get a property under contract. By this point, you've already reached out to your title company and set up a relationship. So the first step is to submit your contract that's signed by both parties to your title company. The next thing the title company is going to do is pull the chain of title. And basically, it's a fancy word for they're going to research search the title. They have underwriters within the company, and they're going to look at the history of how the deed has changed from person to person. And if there's any issues, it's going to come up here, and then that has to be resolved at that point. The next step they're going to do is they're going to pull off payoffs for the property. If there's any mortgages, any outstanding debt on the property, if there's any type of liens, it's all going to come up on these reports because you're buying a property and all these issues need to be cleared for the title to transfer with a clear title and title insurance. So if you're buying a property and you're a new cash buyer, they want to make sure it's got a clean title. A clean title means the mortgages are being paid off, all the liens are paid off, and all the property taxes are squared up. It's simple as that. So once all the numbers are done, depending on the type of closing you do, sometimes there's prorations. Now a proration is basically if there's a $2,000 tax bill and you're halfway through the year, then $1,000 gets credited towards the new buyer, and then the seller gets debited $1,000 because they were there for 50% of the time, so they owe 50% of the tax. This is called a proration. They do it with taxes. Sometimes they do it with rental agreements. If you have a 30-day rental, say it was $3,000 a month, it's $100 a day, and that's how they do a proration. So don't let that word scare you off. And then the other thing the title company does is they handle the recordings, meaning they record the deed, they record a satisfaction of mortgage. If there's a mortgage and it's recorded, they handle all that for you at your local county courthouse, so you don't have to go out there and do it yourself. And guys, that's simple as most closings work and how title companies work.
I'll tell you the story. When I first got my contract, when I first got my first house under contract, I just copied and pasted a few contracts together and made what I thought was sufficient enough, and it worked for the buyer and myself. And that was it. So my advice to you is get this checked out if you really need to. If not, push forward, fail forward, make some mistakes. Anyways, I'm not an attorney. That wasn't legal advice. So let's move over and let's start working right on the PDF. So as you can see right here, this is an agreement for purchase and sale of real property. Now I'm actually gonna fill this out with you, like me and you right now. So let's say this is made on the 18th day of September 2020 between seller, Mr. Seller Smith. So Mr. Seller Smith and Buy Now LLC. Now, if you don't have an LLC and you're just your name, then you're just gonna put your name. Or John Doe, right? So it just depends. Whatever, if you don't have an LLC, don't get hung up with, oh, I found something else to go cry about, or I found something else to make it an excuse not to fill out this actual contract and move forward. No, you can put your name. You can put your name, I promise you. You won't lose anything. All right, so let's go back to this. Buy Now LLC or John Doe if you don't have an LLC. John Doe, obviously you're gonna replace with your name. And it says, and you're considered in the buyer. You see right here, you are the buyer, right? And for in consideration of the mutual promises set forth herein, or other good and valuable considerations, the receipt and sufficiency of which are hereby acknowledged, the parties here to agree as follow. Basically, all it's saying is, hey, look, I am who I say I am, you are say who you are, here's the date. Whatever goes on below, you agree to do exactly what you say you're gonna do, right? So let's go back to this. All right, so in the section 1 in terms. Now I'm not gonna read every single thing for you. I'm gonna give this to you for free so you can download this later and read it yourself. But here's the basics. Terms and definitions. The terms listed below shall have the respective meanings given to them as set forth and adjacent to each term. All right, so the real property, we're talking about the address. Where are you buying? Where is it at, right? So let's just do the famous 123 Main Street, right? And let's just say Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 5555, whatever. So that's the address. The purchase price shall be a net sum of, let's just say you agree to buy this house for $100,000, right? $100,000, all right? So you got $100,000, existing mortgage payoff. Let's just say this house was on free and clear, existing mortgage payoff. You're gonna put NA or 0, whatever. It's not gonna make a difference. Existing mortgage payoff should be NA, where this house is on free and clear. Now, earnest money. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people ask questions about earnest money and they say, what if I don't have any earnest money? What if I don't have earnest? Listen, my first contract, I put down $50. Okay, and contracts after that, I used to put down 10. Now in the place that I am, I put down $100. Now let me explain what each one does. The earnest money is given to the attorney. So when I get a signed contract from the seller back, fully executed, I'm going to give that $100 and the contract to the title company or the attorney. Essentially how I explain it to the seller is, hey, look, when I get this contract from you fully signed, I'm going to run down to the attorney's office or the title company. Depends if you live in an attorney state or you live in a title company state, but you're going to run down to the closing person. You're going to give them the executed contract and the $100. The $100 allows me as the buyer to open up escrow, essentially letting the attorney or letting the title company know that I'm serious. Here goes $100, open up escrow. All right, you get it? So the next part in this contract, so we're gonna put our $100. Now for your sake, let's just make it 10 because you're just starting. Now due diligence shall mean blank. So due diligence, I put $100. And this is what I put in my contracts. Now let me explain to you what due diligence is. Essentially, when you sell a house on the MLS, multiple listing service, when you sell it with a real estate agent, what happens is the buyer agent comes, they're interested in the house, they're gonna make an offer, you're gonna accept the offer, and with the offer, they're gonna give you what they call a due diligence fee. In the state of North Carolina, typically what I'm seeing is anywhere between like $300 to $500 on a house that's like $150,000, $180,000. The buyer gives me, personally, the seller, directly to me or my agent who ends up giving it to me. They give me the due diligence check and I acknowledge receipt of that check. At that point, I can go cash that check because that is mine that is going to be used towards the purchase price of the property, or I get to keep it if I back out. So in that time, and the time is going to be allotted later down in the actual contract, that in that time, which we use 15 days, in those 15 days, I'm going to be doing my due diligence, inspections, or whatever it is I need to do to make sure this property is a perfect fit for what I'm talking about. Now, if I don't want to execute this contract that we have signed in 15 days, you get to keep the $100 and we get to walk away with no repercussions. I'm going to send you a termination letter of contract and we're done. I can do this at day 3 all the way at day 14. It's really, really up to you. Now, in this time while you have your due diligence period, is when you should be telling other investors, other cash buyers about the deal that you have under contract. And this is the time for you to see if you have any fish biting on your bait. Your bait being the house that you have already locked up to the buyers who want to flip properties. And if you don't get in that time, that means you don't have a good deal. So let's move back to the contract here. So due diligence is $100, and closing is going to be 9/28. That sound about right? No, let's just do 10, 15, 20, 20. All right. So we're saying here, warranty, buyers purchasing and selling the property as is where it is condition, right? Section 2 talks about the prorated expenses. Like I said, you can read through this yourself. Title, seller agrees to convey fee simple marketable property. Basically, they're going to give you a clean, clear title, general warranty deed. Section 4, the condition. You can read that. There's a waiver, following conditions. There's the buyer should buy, the seller should sell. You can read that right there. There's a bunch of stuff in here. Like I said, I'm giving this away to you for free, so you can just read it yourself. I'm gonna get to part D here in section 4, and this is important for you to know. Inspections. I would change this to due diligence, but inspections, same thing. Sometimes sellers get scared of the word inspections. They're like, I thought you were buying it as is. Yeah, I am, but I still need to do my due diligence. So right here with the inspections, buyers shall have an inspection examination period of 15 days to inspect the property. And this is when, like I said, you're going to go out and see if your buyers are interested. And sometimes I even get full-on inspections of these properties in case I see something that is maybe mysterious. And sometimes these inspections has found things that the seller hasn't seen or didn't know, and myself didn't see or didn't know. And it's allowed me to go back and renegotiate with the actual seller. But so this is where your due diligence period, your 15 days, it tells you right here. And it says, If the agreement shall be terminated, if so, the buyer shall receive return of the earnest money. It's already built in the contract. And for you guys who already been doing real estate, you know that you don't have to get signature from the seller for the attorney or the closing company to return the earnest money, because we already pre-agreed upon it right there. So then you have some stuff where it talks about environmental, risk of loss, closing. Remember, we talked about the closing should be, it says in the event that this transaction does not close on or before, and I think we said 10/15/2020, either seller or buyer may terminate this contract. Now, one extra thing you may want to put in there, just for the years of experience that I've had, is you can put in the contract that if the seller, if we do not close by October 15th due to the seller's lack of ability to clear the title, then this contract will automatically extend it 30 days and then another 30 days. So that's typically some things I like to put. It's only came up maybe 2 or 3 times in the 4 years I've been wholesaling real estate, but I'm telling you, it's something that can save you a lot of trouble if it ever does come up. All right, let's get back to this right here. It talks about notices and talks about the entire agreement. This stuff is pretty basic. There's nothing real crazy in here, but this contract will protect you in some type of way. Is it the bulletproof contract? No, but this will get you started. Section 10, you're going to talk about compliance and laws. Talk about what happens if we get a lawsuit or anything like that. Applicable laws. I work in North Carolina, so I say, hey, look, if anything happens, we're going to use the state of North Carolina's laws. And then modification. If we need to modify this contract in any way upon written mutual agreement between the seller and buyer, provisions of this agreement may be modified at any time. And then it's pretty simple. You put the date, the seller's signature, the date, your signature, and if you have an entity, LLC or anything like that, you put all that stuff right there. And literally you initial and sign, initial at the bottom of every page, and that's pretty much it. There's not much that really goes into a contract. Now, you can have an 8-page contract. I know in Texas, a lot of people like to use I think they call it the TREC. Listen, contracts are pretty simple. All you have to do is take your time and read through them, and you'll start to understand.